What's up, guys? It's Chase from Chase's Workshop, and in this video I'm going to go over the jig that I use to make these one-piece guitar necks. You know, for the two-piece guitar neck, you basically come in there and you find a center line and you route the truss rod cavity and you mount it and you glue the fretboard on, and then you do all your magic to it to get it to a guitar neck. Well, this one's it's a little bit different, but because we got to route it perfectly down the back of the neck, the skunk stripe down the back of the neck. And I use this jig to do it. You can do it many other ways, but if you're interested in maybe trying it this way, check this out. It's a very simple jig. If you have scrap wood laying around, which I know all of you do, you can probably build this jig for under $5. So very cheap, very efficient, very effective. And what we're going to do is, basically what I do is I take the piece of wood that I'm wanting to use for a guitar neck, and I take a template and I lay it on there, and I include the wood that I want to include or exclude parts of it that I don't want in the neck, and I trace it out, cut it out, and then I route it. And basically I have a piece of maple or whatever I'm using for the neck blank, just like this. Nothing else done to it. I hadn't routed anything to it. I hadn't done any fret work, nothing. It's just a blank, like so. And we're going to take this, and I'm going to use this jig, and I'm going to show you how I use it to get it to this point here. So if it sounds like something that interests you guys, stick around. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like. If you like it, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Alright guys, so here's the jig. It's just 3 pieces of MDF board, and they just are straight all the way through. These two sides right here are on this one here, are, if you want to build it like this one, is 2 7/8 thick is how thick I made them. And this is 3/4 inch MDF board. So I've got 2 7/8 thick pieces of wood cut straight, and then this bottom right here is cut to the exact thickness of my router. So if you're using a different router, this is a Bosch coat router. If you're using something different, you'd want to do it to that thickness, because you want this thing to sit, you want your router to sit in there like so, to where no play or nothing, and it can ride in this groove. So now we've got that, and then the only other parts of this is the T-nuts. So I got 4 T-nuts and 4 bolts. So if you have scrap wood in your shop, which I'm sure you do, you can build this for $2 or $3 for these bolts and the T-nuts and stuff. And on these T-nuts, I just align them to where they're about 1/2 inch to centered above the bottom, to where they can bite into the side of the neck blank. So that's all I did, and I countersunk these, and then I drilled holes to where the spikes are, so that they didn't split any of the wood or make anything mess up here. That's it on the jig, except for these 2 pieces right here, and I'll go over what those are for here in just a minute. So we're going to pretend this is our neck blank, and that this is a $10,000 piece of maple that we've bought, and I want to take it, I want to set it in here. So I hadn't done anything to the neck yet. I hadn't put any lined any frets on it or anything, and I've got it in the jig. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to zoom in here and show you how I line this thing and get everything straight. So stand by. Okay, so right here is the back of the neck. So we got the neck, the heel of the neck right here, and this is the back of the jig. And you can see right here that there's a T-nut with a bolt, and a T-nut with a bolt right here. So now that you're oriented, I want to show you how I line this thing, and it's very simple. All I do is I take this router and I mount it into this spot here. And as you can see, our center line is to the right of the router bit, and I usually try to get the router bit as centered up to where I can see it as I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this screw while I'm tightening this screw to get this thing to align. So I'm basically just going to turn them. As you can see, the center line is creeping over. I can't really see what I'm doing right now. I'm having to watch the camera to do it, but hopefully you get the idea of this. Once I get it to where I think I like it, I do this exact same thing down here at the bottom. So stand by. I'm going to get everything moved around to the back side where you can see me working there too. Okay, so here we are at the very top of the neck now, and you know, you always want to keep your router in the same orientation. You don't want to get it aligned here at the bottom and then flip it and come back up here and align it backwards. You know, I aligned it the same way at the back as I did at the front. So when I get up here to this part here, I'm in the same direction I was, and as you can see, I'm off right there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did down below. I'm going to tighten one and loosen the other until I get it to where I think it's pretty straight. I'm trying to, like I said, trying to watch the screen and everything. So right there looks pretty close to me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the other end again and make sure I'm still aligned, because if you adjust it down here and it's way off, then when you come back down here it could be off just a little bit too. And you want to get as close to the end as you can get. So I know that the nut's going to be right around in here somewhere on the other side. So I know I'm going to be routing to right in here somewhere. So I want to get on out here, and I want to get as close to the end of the neck as I can down here, down on this side. So I go back down there, I do the same thing again, check it 2 or 3 more times, come back and make sure it's perfectly where I want it at. Okay, now that you understand how I get this center line with the router, I kind of want to show you too what I mean by not flipping this thing. So if you're coming down here and you're lining this up this way, you do not want to take this thing out, flip it, and come down here and do it this way. You want to make sure that you're in the same orientation the whole time. So if I'm measuring it here, I'm going to come all the way down here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring it all the way down here. That way when this thing slides back and forth, it is exactly the same. I know these machines are made with precision, but they can still be off just a little bit, and it'll make this thing look wonky when you get done. So once I get that perfectly aligned to where I want it, that's when I start routing my truss rod cavity. And I'll do a simple pass and see how it looks, and if it looks good, I'll continue on, because a lot of that will be routed off or rounded off when I'm finishing the neck. So if I get a little bit off, I can still correct it with a short pass. Get a short pass in there, see where you're at. If it looks good, continue on. If not, adjust it however. But now that that's done, so let's say a couple things you have to remember too when you're doing this from the back of the neck, like I do for these one piece. You need to figure out how thick, what thickness you want between the fretboard and the bottom of the truss rod. And I just usually try to go by, what's the thickness of a normal fretboard when you get done, and whatever that is, whatever you use the same. Just experiment with it. Okay, so we're aligned straight on here. So let's pretend I went ahead and I routed my truss rod. Okay, I've got that done. Now I'm going to show you the second part of this jig that helps out a lot. So now that I've got the truss rod routed, I'm going to take it out. We're going to pretend like I flipped it over and say that this is the front now. Alright, now that I've got this, the back's got a route in it for the truss rod, I'm going to come here, I'm going to lay all my frets out, I'm going to cut all my frets, I'm going to drill my holes for my fret markers, I'm going to contour the neck and get the neck to the right thickness and do all that stuff, and I'm going to bring it back to this jig here. So once I've mounted the markers in here, I've got them, they're set. They're in the wood. I'm going to bring it back to this jig. I'm going to get it back to the point where I had it, and it don't have to be perfect on this part of it, but as long as it's close, you can come back in here and align it however you want to. Now that I've got that, okay, I've got my frets sitting here, my fret slots. I've got my fret slots cut, and I've got all my markers marked into the jig. I'm going to take these pieces of wood, and all they are, they're cut to a thickness. I'm going to set them on each side of this jig here, just like so. And then I use these Stu Mac sanding blocks, and then these blocks mount in here, and they slide back and forth. And there's a little play in them, but usually when you're pushing, you're riding one side or the other, and it's keeping you relatively straight, and it's keeping you from standing like this. That's what you don't want. If you use a different size block, I have some other blocks that don't fit in this, but you can cut these on the table saw to whatever thickness you need to get these to sit in here. So I can sit here and I can radius the top of this with the frets in it, with the frets cut and everything else. Once I get that done, at that point all the markers are leveled, the fretboard is at the right radius, everything's right. I'll come back in here and I can go ahead and mount my truss rod. You can mount the truss rod when you get done doing the back, however you want to do it. But once you get done routing the back, routing the truss rod cavity in the back, you can mount it. Put your strip of whatever wood you want to use into it, plane it down back flat, and then flip it over and do all your fret work and everything else. So, guys, that's about it about this jig. And I mean, there's probably many other things that you could use it for besides just using what I use it for. If you have any questions or comments about this, leave them below. If you have any ideas of things that you could use this jig for, leave them in the comments or tell me about them. I'd like to know. I mean, that's what we're all here for, is to help each other. And I need help, you need help, we all need help from everybody. So if you have any questions about it, leave them below. If you liked the video, give me a like. If you liked it, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.